The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one. If you'd like to listen, you can come over to paraxradionetwork.com and join in the live chat. And you'll be right here with us, so we appreciate that. Tonight we've got a great show lined up and great guest, and we have with us Barbara Duncan.
Hello, everyone.
And we got Tabby Cat.
How you doing, everybody?
And we got Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
All right. Now, before you introduce the guest, I guess we're pretty much ready. We got a whole lot to cover too, or try anyway. So, Barbara, you've been doing good out there?
Yeah, we don't. North of us, as it was a terrible heat wave, and we got a bunch of fires already. But
wow. And Jeff, you doing good there in the south?
Yeah, we've been having 70s to 80s, but we've been having nice breezes each day, so it's kind of cuts it down a bit.
Yeah, that's about like us here. It's supposed to start getting really warm tomorrow and possible storms too. So with that, why don't you introduce our guest?
Okay, well, tonight's guest is George Lunsford. He's the author of the 4-volume book series Legends, Myth, Monsters and Ghosts, with which to share the stories he's heard and research from all over the world, which is a smart move on his point, considering all of mine are just right on my website. A fellow actor, George has been living an impressive paranormal-filled life, from his childhood experiences of his then recently passed great-grandmother visiting, his having had a near-death experience, attending a haunted high school, and a UFO encounter in the Bermuda Triangle, and many other events. George has always had a lifelong interest in and researching the paranormal at large. So welcome, George Lunsford.
Thank you very much.
Now, you've been to a lot of places and done a lot of stuff actually before you wrote the book. Now,
that was compliments to the United States Navy.
Oh, let's see, I was in the Air Force, and I only got to go one place.
Jeff dropped a bombshell, and we got to talk about this. A UFO, and you made it into the Bermuda Triangle and out again.
Oh, many times.
Wow.
Some interesting.
Not everybody gets sucked up into it.
Apparently not.
With my luck, I would. No, not happening.
So explain your Bermuda Triangle experiences.
Which one?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, all of them. Because to me, it's like, wow. Just to be in there must have been creepy at first.
It really, when you're out there, it's no different than the rest of the ocean. But you do have strange happen. We found one time we found a F-14 tail fin floating in the water. We go and we recover the F-14 fin. We pull it up, and it looks like on the edges, there was no jagged edges. It looked like it had been laser cut. It was just smooth around the edges and all that. And there was very few barnacles, like it was set there for us to find.
Wow. And now there's no numbers on there that you can pick up exactly which plane it was, is there?
Yeah, they had some ID numbers on the top part of the tail fin. They run it, and it had disappeared several years before we found it.
Wow.
The whole plane?
Yeah.
We just
Pilot
got to wait 5.5 years for the passengers to pop back in. Oh, wait, no, that's...
was a pilot missing too.
That's a reference to an excellent TV show that unfortunately has just been canceled. I'm not happy about it.
What show was it?
Manifest.
Oh, yeah. So did the pilot survive, George?
Yeah, from what I understand, the pilot and the co-pilot had ejected. It was doing a training mission, and they ejected and were picked up, but their plane was lost.
Huh. Wow.
Okay. They didn't have any explanation as to how that thing could have gotten sheared off like that?
I don't understand it, because there should be some jagged edges on it, and I didn't see any jagged edges on it. It looked like you had literally laser cut it off the plane.
Huh.
Well, could that have happened from like lightning or something?
No, they should be, if it was ripped off the plane like that, they should have been some type of jagged edges on it. I mean, metal doesn't rip that smoothly.
Oh. Wow.
And then the fun one, the really interesting one was, I was on aft lookout. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. I mean, the water was just as smooth as glass. It was sunny. It was just a gorgeous, gorgeous day. We was watching the bottlenose dolphins run around and play, and the porpoises and all that. And in front of the ship, you could see like a little dot on the horizon, like a little gray dot. And as we got closer, of course, it got bigger and bigger. When we got up to it, it was a fog bank that went from water all the way to the sky as high as you could see, and as far as you could see in both directions, east and west. As the ship started going into the fog bank, all the electronics shut down, and the compasses and everything started spinning crazy, like electrical. I mean, like magnetic. It started spinning out of control. And we had so much inertia behind the ship, was moving without, even with no power, was still moving forward. So as the ship went in, all that started happening. But when it come out the other side of the fog bank, as each part of the ship come out, everything kicked back on normal.
Huh.
And as you're going through it, I was on aft lookout. So as I was going through it, you could feel electrical charge on your skin, and the hair would stand up, and it just felt kind of weird. You know what I mean?
I've heard of those down in the Bermuda Triangle like that.
Huh?
I said I've heard of those in the Bermuda Triangle like that. People seeing those clouds like that. The fog.
It's weird. It really is. And then after the ship went all the way through the fog bank, the water was choppy and it was kind of a grayish day. Looked back and there was no fog bank.
Really? Wow.
Oh, wow.
Ouch. Sorry.
See, and then, people wonder why the Bermuda Triangle has such a reputation it does, and it's stuff like that. I mean, it didn't pick up on the radar at all either?
No.
Wow.
Wow.
Just okay, where it happened,
So what type of ship was you on?
I was on a fast frigate guided missile, an FFG. The same as the USS Stark and the USS Robinson was.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, and nobody disappeared off the ship, right?
No.
Everybody's accounted for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the start of a Twilight Zone story if there ever was one.
I could probably build on that and make a story out of it.
Could, very.
Well, now, I remember the story about the ships in Philadelphia where they made one disappear, but when it come back, it was kind of like messed up, and the people was kind of like weaved into the metal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've
That was
heard it.
the Eldridge,
But
wasn't it? Yeah, the Eldridge.
Did you ever get any kind of secret confirmation that something like that happened?
Oh no, I was just a poor lonely old gunner's mate. They didn't care what I thought.
Oh, that's a shame.
Only time they wanted me is when they wanted me to shoot something. That's it.
Yeah.
That would have been a fascinating thing to to actually research. And not too many people are willing to talk about that particular incident.
And you can't.
They're like trying not to admit that it happened or something.
They've tried to deny it, and it's all part of. I believe that they said that's part of they're trying to develop some kind of a cloaking device, so they could cloak ships so they wouldn't be picked up on radar or visually.
Yeah, something that went horribly wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
even Nikola Tesla dropped the project saying, "This is not going to go well."
Yep.
So
Didn't
you
he
know you were
oversee
down
it?
there in the Caribbean. Any pirates down there?
Mess with our boat. My boat was 453 feet long, so no.
What? No, Jack Sparrow?
No.
Nobody flying the pirate flag. That's too bad.
I did enjoy the Caribbean. I have to. That love when you can stand on the deck and look in the water and see,
Yeah.
20 down, just as clear as a bell.
Wow.
It's amazingly clear water and amazingly warm. Nice to swim in.
Oh yeah, we did a couple of swim calls on the ship when we were down there a few times.
Nice.
Did you encounter any ghost ships? Not necessarily just in the Caribbean, but anywhere while you were aboard ship. Did you guys ever encounter, or did you hear of anybody encountering any kind of ghost ships or something you couldn't explain out on the water?
Not really. I mean, from what I've been reading about the ghost ships, that's kind of a hit and miss thing. It usually involves a timing, like the time when the ship actually sunk is when it reappears, almost like a glitch in time.
Uh-huh.
I haven't really heard much about, no, when I was in the Navy at least, about all that. In my research I did. A lot of them in the Great Lakes.
Yeah, that's probably got some of the most interesting stories up there. Have you gone up there to the Great Lakes area and investigated any of those sightings?
No, unfortunately, I hadn't had the money or the time. I'm where I work a regular full-time job too. So,
Well, I might be on your bucket list then.
Gray Road that last week when we was up in Chicago.
Actually, today is the anniversary of the St. Lawrence Seaway opening up.
Oh, wow.
Connecting all the ships to the ocean. So.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Oh, wow. Since they're doing that, since they did that, I can't help but wonder if that's why you keep seeing all of these sightings and reports and everything of all these sea monsters in the Great Lakes. Now that they're more connected to the ocean, all the sightings that they claim of seeing big, huge critters, but they say, oh no, they can't live in fresh water. These were, sea creatures out in the ocean. And every time they find some sort of a connection between large bodies of water like the Great Lakes and things like that to the ocean, or like even Loch Ness, there's got to be something to it. You got to figure that sooner or later, look at the bull shark. It can go from saltwater to fresh. Why couldn't something else?
Yeah. Well, I think that they look at things through a certain prism. I mean, they look at them like, okay, this can't happen because of this. And I got news for them. Nature can do whatever nature wants to. You're not going to change it.
Yeah.
I think that's the one constant there is in the world. And there's no reason why these creatures couldn't live in salt water and fresh water.
Somebody just took a video of an octopus coming out of the water and grabbing food.
Oh, I believe it.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
They're pretty intelligent. Why not? They know.
Yeah.
They know when they've got a hand out.
Yeah.
Or a tentacle out.
Yep. We have a question from the chat room from Sherry, and she wants to know, do you know anything about some of the plane crashes that are in the Great Lakes? The strange ones, like, when the what was it, the senator and a few others that disappeared in the Great Lakes, all the controversy and so forth up there?
No, unfortunately, I don't know a lot about it. I have heard and I have read that there are storms and there is magnetic issues up there that can mess with aircraft.
Yeah.
All about there. I've never really researched it.
Well,
Well, down in your area too, there's a lot of rock anomalies too that would account for some crashes and weird lights going on, etc.
Oh yeah, we got road. You can look over to Brown Mountain, and there's lights pop up and move across the mountain.
Have you got to see those?
I have many times.
Mm-hmm.
any theory or any idea as to what you think it might be?
Well, there's different stories about it. There's some saying that it was a lost child and the parents were out looking for the child with a lantern. There's stories that it was a escaped slave before the Civil War, trying to find the slave. There's all kinds of different stories. I personally believe that it's a real holy area, the Cherokee, to have holy stories about that mountain. So I wouldn't be spirits moving around the mountain.
Wow.
We actually when I was young, we had people who broke the mountain up into fields on a map. We had some people report to the ones over on the mountain, and they'd try to get to it before it disappeared.
What color is the light?
Yellow. I've seen white, and I think that's the only two colors I've seen personally.
Okay, so it does look more like a flame of some sort, rather than the blue lights like a lot of people see.
Yeah.
So it does look like fire of some sort.
It does. It looks like a lantern or something through there.
Yeah.
And while you can actually, here.
You seem to be breaking up for some reason.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's just, I think it's the way the connection is. Do you have a microphone on your headset?
No, I'm actually using my phone. My computer's not acting right.
Ah, your phone. Well, that's probably why then. Phones usually do that, so.
I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
No problem.
That's something that happens.
Generally, it happens to me.
Yeah.
With all the various different places that you've been, your books cover a wide range of subjects. They go from, ghosts to witches to strange creatures to cryptids and so forth. Now, the majority of the stories that you do, George, it pretty much encompasses the general area where you've been and are right now in the United States, but you do have some that are out in the West and so forth, like where Barbara and Jeff are right now. Is there anything in particular out there, say in California or in that general area, that you find the most fascinating?
Well, Bigfoot, of course. I mean, I'm a Bigfoot fan, big time. And in the book for California, I talk about the bushwhacker monster, the lizard people, and the Frisco Nightwalkers.
Yeah, what are they? What are they supposed to be?
People believe they're aliens because they have no body. It's just a head and legs. They believe that they're aliens.
Those weird white, like they're like almost look like weird stick figures with the sweatpants kind of look.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. I love that clip. That keeps showing on a lot of the compilation stuff. I keep thinking, even if it was fake, who would do this and why?
I'm sorry. I still think they're baby barn owls. No, serious. Have you ever seen a baby barn owl?
Oh, yeah.
They look like that, yeah. Long legs, no feathers, and they walk like that.
Yeah,
so
they don't look like they're wearing sweatpants and stick. At least they have these guys don't even have talent. They're just like they're on stilts or something almost.
Yeah. They're supposed to be like 6 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah,
That'd be
they're huge.
That would be a big barn owl.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I didn't know they had a name. What did you call them?
Let's go night crawlers.
Night crawlers. Isn't that a worm?
Yeah.
It is. That's what got me confused.
And don't
Go
call
fish.
it Frisco.
I remember searching for night crawlers with my dad for him to take fishing, and we'd be out there in the middle of the night with flashlights and everything, and he would never find him with his flashlight, but I would always find him with my bare feet. I never liked that.
Oh, Lord.
Now, what was the other one?
There's the Billywhack monster.
The Billywhack monster. What is that?
I don't remember that one too well.
Okay.
Hurt way too much.
Well, Bigfoot I already know about, but yeah. There's a lot of that here.
Well, there's so many things. Probably one of the things that I had never really heard of, there's an awful lot of things in your books, George, that some of the references and everything I've never heard of. They have some really interesting names and so forth. But one that I thought was really interesting in South Carolina was a boo hag.
Oh, the boo hag. I love the boo hag.
I had never heard of that before.
That actually was told to me when I was young by the Gullah people. I always call them the Gullah, but they were actually brought here from West Africa, and they tell stories from that was handed down in their native area, and that was one of the legends that they talked about was the boo hag.
Wow.
Aren't they supposed to be some form of witch?
Well, it's kind of an odd creature. The boo hag is it's almost like a demon type character, but what it does is it wears human skin during the day, and it moves around like everyone else. And at nighttime, it'll shed its skin and turn into its, I guess you're a astral form or whatever you call it. And it goes into other houses, and it goes to people that are asleep, and it gets up on top of them and steals their life force so that it can live.
Wow.
And before daylight, it has to be back at its place and back in its skin.
That sounds an awful lot some of the paintings and etchings and everything that I saw from back in the 15 and 1600s, even here in the United States back then, where they would show this really ugly looking thing literally on top of somebody in bed.
Yep.
With, dripping looking skin. But that was, long before the Civil War. But there has to be some sort of basis for that. I mean, for it to, go in between all of these different cultures and, different formats and everything. So there's got to be something to it. I mean, I guess it's sort of like the boogeyman that we're always, being told, hey, the boogeyman's going to get you if you don't mind yourself.
Well, the thing about the boo hag is kind of like a neurotic creature. It's kind of nuts because there's 3 ways to stop a boo hag. You can pour salt around your bed, which is messy.
Yeah, well, that's the typical witch thing. You keep witches at bay with salt.
You can put indigo paint on your trim work around your doors and your windows. It can't cross it. Or, my favorite one, you can put like a broom or a duster in your bedroom, and the boo hag can't resist if it comes in your room and that broom's there. It has to count the pieces of the broom.
Well, that's also a way to stop vampires, because they're supposed to be OCD. You put rice, like a little pile of rice at your doorstep, and they're counting it until the sun comes up, and then they're destroyed.
Yep, exactly. That's
Wow,
same.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely
Well,
OCD. Wow.
I was hoping you were saying that they'd have to pick up the broom and clean your bedroom.
Barbara wants to invite one. Well, now, how'd you get started into researching all these?
Well, I remember growing up, the way it was when I grew up, your grandparents or your parents used to hand down stories to you about your area. Like they told us about a thing called Helen's Bridge. They told us about the Brown Mountain Lights and all these other different stories from our area. And as a kid, growing up, you hear these stories, you have to go check them out,
Yeah.
because we're crazy as youngins and we have nothing better to do. So we would go wherever we heard about stories about, we'd go investigate them and check them out just to see what was going on with them. And nowadays, we don't really have that. We don't have older people telling stories down to the younger people and, getting their imagination built up and getting them excited to go check out stuff around their own areas. And I wanted to pass that on. I really did. I didn't want that to be lost.
That's great. I think that is probably something that is really lost, is storytelling. You've got the internet, you've got cable, but nobody really just sits around and talks about folklore, their past, and everything else. It seems to be a lost art, and it's a shame.
It really is, because these stories are born in these areas. I mean, they're not, some of them may overlap. They may be things like them other places, but the stories that were handed down were the history of where you're hearing them at. And it's just something that's being lost, and I couldn't stand it. I'm weird. I'm kind of OCD in some ways, I guess. I don't want to lose that, because I still tell my kids stories, and my kids are in their 20s.
So, have you been to any of these places to research them?
Some of them I have. A lot of them I couldn't go to because my books cover the entire United States.
Right.
But like when I was doing North Carolina, and I did, in the very first part of that book, my very first book, was the first chapter was about the Cherokee legends.
Right.
Well, I work in Cherokee every month. So I was out there around Cherokee, and I would ask around the people out there. And I got a lot of the stories and stuff from them. Just like I talk about, like the Sukaloo. Well, the Sukaloo is the Cherokee Bigfoot.
Uh-huh.
I heard his story. And the cool thing I found out is everybody else that passes down these stories, there's variations. But if you go to the Indian tribes, there's no variations in their stories. It's passed down exactly the same every time it's passed down.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to me. The fact that they pass their stories down exactly the same to each generation. And they still sit around in Cherokee and tell the stories and tell about the legends, like Spearfinger or the Little People or the Raven Mocker or Sukaloo. They still tell all those stories out there till they're young.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's great. I just love it to death. I think it's awesome.
I think the Raven Mocker was probably one of my favorites out of that particular chapter, because the Raven Mocker, they refer to it almost as like a shapeshifter type of thing, but the fact that it is what I would refer to as almost a harbinger of death sort of thing.
Yeah.
And just about every culture in the world has got something similar to it. Like the Irish have the banshee.
Oh yeah.
So the Cherokee have the raven mocker, but the raven, the bird, the raven, isn't the only form that it takes, is it?
No, it's not. It can take on any form, whether it be an old person, a kid, just really anything it takes to get to the person that is passing away.
Yeah. And it just seems to be those that are actually going to die. In other words, they're not there to take your life. They're
Right.
there to make the transition.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way I understood it. Yes. Well,
Wow.
the thing I found most interesting in Cherokee, of course, Spearfinger was one of my favorites because, I mean, come on, she's got skin of rock. You just gotta love her, even though she does eat children's livers. But still, you know.
Oh, give her a break. She just eats
Yeah, I mean,
onions. Yeah, just give her a break.
but the whole story of Spearfinger is fantastic. But what I found the most interesting is when I was doing this research in Cherokee, there was a lady who had written a book, and I happened to run across it, and also found it online. And she talks about the little people. Well, I got me curious, so I started talking to the people out there in Cherokee about the little people, and I got to talk to an older gentleman out there who was probably in his 80s, and he was telling me about when they were doing construction out there in Cherokee that they found some of the bones of the little people and some of their tunnels.
Wow.
Oh, my word.
Hmm.
Wow.
Of course, I eat that up, you know. I'm a big nerd when it comes to all this stuff.
I mean, everything has its basis in fact. And I mean,
Sure.
it's just like, the giants that they seem to find in Europe and everything.
Ooh.
Why not? Heck, we've got people right now, we've got basketball players that are huge. And if you go to England right now, I think it's in the Tower of London museum, they have, and I saw it with my own eyes, a full suit of armor for somebody that was darn near 7 feet tall. And then
Oh, yeah.
right next to it was a suit of armor for somebody who was only 3 feet tall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when the Indians come over the land bridge into America, they talked about in all their legends, from all the ones out west, all the way to the East Coast, they talked about running into the white giants, and they described them as having red hair or green eyes.
Hmm.
They attacked them because they were cannibals. So the Indians attacked them, and they talk about them as if they wiped them out, but we won't get into all that though, because
Ah.
Well, I mean that is a legend. I mean, even in some scholars are saying that came from Europe that there were groups that came in, and that there's supposedly some, I believe, Cherokee legends of seeing people with very light skin and blue eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not surprised that there were probably a lot of visitors to North America prior to 1492.
Yep.
Well, I'll give you a little teaser here. So what you think? The disappearance of the giants in America and the reappearance of the wild men were around 200 years, 300 years. And it was all around what they call the Mammoth Cave System.
Oh, in Kentucky?
Oh, man.
Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Wow. That opens up a whole can of worms.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oof.
Well, we won't go into the goblins. That's another big one there. The Hopkinsville goblin stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
With all
Which
of
I
the
believe is cave related, right?
yeah,
Do what?
are goblins, goblins all over, in any kind of folklore are involved in caves.
Well,
They're
especially
act-
around.
And
Go ahead.
up in Iceland and all that, they're big up there.
Wow.
Goblins and trolls.
So do they all come out then on Halloween?
Well, see, I was married to one of my second marriage.
Oh,
So.
Lord.
Oops.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Well, now,
I was going to say I dated a troll or two, but yeah, well,
In North Carolina, down in Wilmington, had you ever heard the Chamber of Commerce building down there being haunted? Any
I
stories
have.
on it?
I was actually invited, but was unable to go to a ghost hunt down there.
Really?
Wow.
Um,
And I wanted to go to the one in USS North Carolina too.
I've
Oh,
been,
did you? Oh,
I
that's
did.
so cool.
I was unable to go.
I was on the North Carolina many times, being able to just walk around and just look at everything. I mean, because I lived right there in Wilmington for 20 years, so I was doing stuff like that. I wasn't into the paranormal at the time, but the ship itself was fascinating. So, but
Oh, it is.
There was in the Chamber of Commerce building. It's not the Chamber of Commerce anymore. It was an old house set up on Gallows Hill, where they used to hang the people at when they deemed them to be hanged. And
Right.
so it was named Gallows Hill. But there was this house there that they'd made into the Chamber of Commerce building. Shortly, I don't know, a couple months after I'd moved to Wilmington, my mom sent me this Fate magazine talking about the Chamber of Commerce building, and this guy had took a picture of a ghost coming down the stairway, which naturally I'm going to go there just to talk to the people and see if anything happened. I did go in and talk with them, and they said that they hadn't never seen anything other than sometimes the back door would just open up. It'd be locked, but it would just open up. Other than that, they didn't really see anything. So I let it go at that. My wife at the time was working for this woman, taking care of her mother while she worked. And when she come home one day, my wife was telling her about the Chamber of Commerce building, and we went down there, and this Fate magazine had a picture of a ghost. She told her, she said, "Wait just a minute." She went in her bedroom and come out with the original 8x10 glossy picture of that ghost on the stairway. At the time, she was dating or going with the guy that actually took the picture.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, is that coincidence? I mean, so I thought it was real neat, something like that. And she said it was all true. So.
Oh, I don't doubt it at all. I really don't. Anytime there's something traumatic happens in the area, I think that creates the ghost.
Wow.
Now, have you personally seen, with your own eyes, an apparition or something that you really can't explain or probably considered to be a ghost?
Oh, yeah, several times.
And where was that?
Well, one of them, like I said, like in my book, tells about, it was my great-grandmother was the first one. She basically come in and sat on the end of my bed, and I woke up and she was there. And it didn't look right. The more my eyes got in focus, she looked translucent. But she had all regular form. When she told me goodbye and that she loved me, she just vaporized away. But what made me know it was really her, you know how everyone has a certain scent like soap or perfume or whatever you smell?
Right.
You use that scent? Well, that scent was in my room. When I woke up, it was still in my room.
Huh.
Then she had passed away.
So she came to you to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, that was nice. That's great.
Now, we were talking a little bit about banshees before, and you mentioned in one of your books about the white screamer.
Yep.
Which kind of sounds almost the same as a banshee in a way.
Yeah, it does.
It kind of is. It kind of is, yeah. It's a little bit, it's more of an American version of a banshee, I guess you could say.
Oh, there's an awful lot of Scottish people that settled in Tennessee and Kentucky in that area, right? So I'm guessing that it's probably an offshoot of that.
I'm thinking so, yeah, because everything gets like I said, everyone else can pass down these stories, and they get changed a little bit with each story, except for the Indians. They don't change their stories at all, but everybody else does. So I'm assuming it is probably pretty close to the original story of the Banshee. I think it's probably the same thing as the White.
That's a really wild. It's almost like a mist.
Yep.
Now, when I lived in Daytona before I went into the service, they you had one in there about the Devil Chair. It's in Volusia County.
Yeah.
I had never heard of that until I read it in your book here, and I thought if I ever make it back down there again, I guess I'll have to go out there and look. But what's supposed to happen with the Devil's Chair if you go out there and sit in it or something like that? Does it come out and grab you?
Well, honestly, it's been a while since I wrote that one, so I don't remember a lot of the details. It seems like when I wrote that, it's been 4 years. I don't think that you actually sat in and grabbed you. If I remember right, people saw the devil sitting in it.
Oh, really? Oh. Wow.
If I remember, I said it's been about 4 years since I wrote that, so I don't really. It's not one of the ones that actually stood out as much as some of the other ones did.
Right.
I thought it was a story, but it didn't. It didn't have that pizzazz that some of the other stories had.
So they were seeing like a devil with horns and what have you, or what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sitting on his throne, the scepter. Saying, "You're next."
It didn't look like from Lucifer, I guess.
So, did you come across a story in Daytona about the Tomoka light?
I saw it, but I couldn't get enough good information on it at the time to do it justice when I put it on paper. So if I can't do them as much justice as possible, I won't put them in the book.
Yeah,
because I felt doing a disservice to the people of that area.
I've been there, and many nights driving up and down that road, and yes, I've seen it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do they relate to?
It's like a 3-mile stretch of road from the last street light to the park entrance, and it's swamp on both sides, so you can't pull off the road. And the road has overhanging trees all the way through it, so that makes it spooky. But you drive up and down that road slow and turn your headlights off and on, and all of a sudden a light will come on either in front of you or behind you. It'll start coming at you fast, changing colors, changing shapes, and I've known it to like go out behind you and then come back on in front of you and different things like that. A lot of people get killed chasing it out there or running from it, one of the two. But I never did anything like that, run fast or anything. But I did see it one night. I mean, it turned red and big shape, and I mean, it was coming down the road. So we left that area then. We didn't go back for a long time.
Well, aren't a lot of that things actually explained as swamp gas?
That's what they try and say it is, but you don't see it out in off the road. It's only on the road, so.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Read something about them seeing full body apparitions at the cemetery.
I don't remember that.
For some reason that popped in my head just now.
I know there's one somewhere about a cemetery down there, but it's not in Tomoka.
Okay,
no.
I may have confused with something else. Like I said, I've studied so much of this stuff; it's all kind of run together in my poor old warped brain.
Well, usually there's not much traffic on that road because at night the road goes out through the jungle, you might say, going to Bunnell, and so you don't see a lot of traffic on it. I'm sure it's built up more now because this was, I don't know, back in the early 60s. But I remember one time I was in the Boy Scouts, and a couple of the guys wanted to take a hike to get a 20-mile merit badge. And we was living in Harbor Oaks at the time, so we hiked all the way up to the park, and went to go into the campground, and they said, if you ain't got your scoutmaster, you can't stay here. So it was getting dusk by then, and it was another 3 miles back to the town, and there wasn't no way at night we was going to be doing that. So about halfway there, you have a rock sign saying Tomoka State Park, and there's a little road right there. It goes right down to the river, and it's only about like 50 yards off the road. And so we decided we would stay there and pitch our sleeping bags and just spend the night. But it was dead quiet out there. There was nothing on the little road or anything. And all of a sudden, heard like about 6 kids on bicycles pedaling real slow on the road. And I never said anything, but one of the guys said, hey, let's jump up there and scare them. So we jumped out of sleeping bags, put our shoes on, run up to the road and looked back toward the town, nothing. Looked back toward the park entrance, nothing. And there was nothing there. And the swamp, there was no place for them kids to go to. So I looked back toward town there, and I seen a red light come on, started coming down the road, and went into a rectangle, and I started hollering at the guys, there's a light, and they just stood there dumbfounded. So we ended up running back down to the edge of the river and stood there for about an hour and never seen anything go by, never seen cars or anything. So we finally got brave enough to get our sleeping bags and get in for the night, but never did see anything. But
That's pretty cool.
It was weird that you would hear kids. I mean, you could plainly hear them just slowly pedaling and talking, and run right to the road, and there wasn't nothing nowhere.
Goodness.
Yeah.
George, since you are most definitely a fan of Bigfoot, and having traveled and everything a great number of places here in the United States, do you find that there's any particular state, excluding out west, because that's kind of obvious that's pretty much where a lot of the Bigfoot sightings are. Is there any place in your area in particular that have been known to have seen either Bigfoot or something similar to it?
He's been seen here a lot. I live in Appalachia, and he's been seen recently here.
Really?
High school over in Murphy. He's been seen on the road between. There's a road that you take from Franklin to Murphy, and it's nothing but a mountain road that goes up. It's a highway. It goes up the mountain on one side and down the mountain on the other side. There's been sights of him crossing the road. There's been yells, screams you hear at night. He makes his presence known here, that's for sure.
Now, personally, have you actually witnessed something that you would consider to be quote-unquote Bigfoot?
No, that's one thing I have not done. I've seen ghosts, I've seen UFOs, and all kinds of weird stuff, but never a Bigfoot.
Have you ever heard anything that you couldn't explain that was supposedly a Bigfoot?
Yeah, the funny thing is when you're out in the mountains at night, you're going to hear all kinds of stuff. And some of the creatures you don't think can make that kind of noise, like a fox. The fox will make the weirdest noise you've ever heard in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And you got all the different birds and everything else. So I'm not versed enough, even though I grew up in the mountains and stayed in them all my life as a kid. There's so many different noises out there. I can't really say, okay, that was a Bigfoot noise.
Well, now you've been out there where there's probably a little light pollution. How about UFOs?
Well, what's really weird when you say that is me and my wife are coming back from Illinois last Friday, and as we was coming back, we were up about 37,000 feet. Beautiful outside, the clouds are down below us, and my wife seen something, and it was a silver cylindrical object. And you couldn't see any wings, you couldn't see any jet exhaust, nothing. It was just an object and out in the sky. So she showed me, and she reached down to get her camera to take a picture of it through the window of the airplane, and it disappeared.
Wow.
That was her first one she had seen. But we see lights and stuff in the sky, but around here, it's what it really is, because we've seen the Link satellites that were put up by Elon Musk. We've seen drones a lot, because everybody loves to play with drones around here, and different things like that, but nothing I can say around here that I've seen in the sky. Just in the middle of the ocean. That's the only place I've heard for sure.
Oh, you mean when you were out on the boat?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. And that would have been in the Caribbean area, right?
That was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Whoa.
Wow.
We're literally right dead in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I'm on lookout, because I spent a lot of time on lookout, because I was a gunner's mate. And we seen something about, if you're on a ship and you're looking out across the ocean, 10 miles is what the horizon is from where you're at. So it was out about approximately 7-8 miles. And we seen this light, and it was just a regular white light to start out with. But then there was, it started a line of lights started lighting up. And there's no ship out there that has a line of lights like that. And there was nothing on radar, nothing on sonar, nothing, period. And we were watching it, and this thing started moving back and forth, side to side, like it was scanning or looking for something. And it went back and forth, up a little bit and down a little bit, back and forth. And then it stopped dead, and it shot straight up in the air so fast you couldn't keep your eyes on it. And it went back and forth for a good 5 minutes before it ever shot up in the air.
Wow.
Now, how many people aboard ship saw it?
At least 6.
Okay, now, did you report it, or did you just talk amongst yourself and decide, well, maybe we better not say anything because they might throw us overboard?
Well, back then you kind of kept it to yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many years ago was that?
Oh, that was 8.
Oh, okay. So long before Starlink, long before a lot of the ships were up there.
Oh, yeah. You were asking me about the full apparitions. I've got a funny story for you. We bought a Ring doorbell. We put the Ring doorbell on the door, which is on the porch. And then you've got, if you're on the porch, we have a big porch. So it's the middle bedroom and then the end bedroom, and then you're off the porch. We were sitting here one night. Our Ring doorbell went off. We thought, what in the world? So my wife pulls it up on the phone. We're standing there looking at it. And this apparition, I guess you could say, is just like a body-shaped smoke, comes out of the middle bedroom and stops in the middle of the porch. And the top of it pivots around like it's looking at the ring. It turned back around and went straight off the end of the porch, and we haven't seen it since.
Wow. What kind of shape was it? Just
It was an amorphous shape. It really didn't have any features. It was just long like a person, and it had like a kind of a round top like a head, but you couldn't get any detail or anything to tell what it was or anything.
So it was just curious about what the heck was on your front porch.
Yeah, pretty much. Come out of the middle bedroom and went out the porch and left.
Huh.
Wow.
How old is the house you live in? When was it built?
Oh, well, our house was built in 74.
Okay,
74?
well, it doesn't matter. I mean, do you know if there was anything in particular on the property before the house was built, like a farm or anything like that?
No, as far as I know, nothing's ever been here till we moved here. Now, there was a building. There is a building out here. It's 100 years old. It's like a little storage building, but that was the only thing here when we moved here.
Wow.
Now, so the area still has some sort of an older history. So who knows who could have been out there? You know, because sometimes spirits get attached to the land.
Yeah, that's very true. And my house, when I was married to my first wife, that house, we had ghosts there. But when I did the research on the property where the house was, there had been a family lived there that had got wiped out by tuberculosis. And
oh dear.
And we had the ghost inside the house was a 16, 17-year-old female.
Oh, that's sad.
On the property was her mom and dad and her younger brother.
Wow.
Yeah, that is definitely sad. Whenever there is an illness or a traumatic death, that has a tendency to keep the energy there. Yeah. And it's well known that it doesn't make any difference even if there isn't a dwelling on the property.
Yeah.
If the land belongs to somebody that really loved that land, they might still roam there.
Oh, I call her Bertha, but she was a sweetheart. When my kids were babies, like my daughter was in her room crying one night. She was just an infant, and she was crying. I woke up to go check on her and change her diaper and stuff. I walk into the room, and all you hear is shh, 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 shh.
Oh.
And her blanket was like somebody was patting it.
Oh. That's cool.
She is big time.
Yeah.
But her little brother would mess with us. He'd run by the window. Make you get up out of your chair to find out what was going on outside. Or he'd laugh in the middle of the night.
Wow. Well, not all ghosts are bad. Most of them.
I've had great experience with some of them.
Yeah. I mean, they're not all Casper either, but, they're most of them are just like your roommate that just never left.
Well, from what I can tell, whatever personality they had alive is what they took with them when they were dead.
Oh, yeah.
Alive, they're a good person after they're dead.
Yep. I've often told people that, I let them know, just because you passed on doesn't mean a darn thing, because if you were a jerk in life, you were a jerk in death.
Oh, yeah.
So if you go into a location to investigate, and this person is there, and this person is known to poke you, push you, scratch you, slap you upside the head, I'm sorry, that's not a demon. It's just a person being a jerk in death, too.
Wow.
I'll agree with that.
As long as Zach Bagans not with you.
All right, I think we're going to take us a quick break. Be about 5-6 minutes. Just remember your mic will be live, but you won't hear anything until we come back on. So with that, I'm going to let Jeff, if you give me a second, you can take us out to break. So take your time. How's that sound?
Okay, you're listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com with your hosts, Henry Foister, who's rattling buttons over on the side there, Ceiling Cat Barbara Duncan, Tabby Cat Gash, both of whom are felines apparently, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, more of a badger, and tonight's guest, fellow actor George Lunsford. So stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para-X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Those listening here in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate all of you. I want to welcome back Barbara Duncan.
Hello, everyone.
And speaking of listeners from around the world, where do we have listeners at tonight?
All over the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Spain.
All right. Spain.
Good evening, Spain.
And we have with us Tabby Cat.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
And we have our great guest with us tonight, George Lunsford.
Hey, how y'all?
Doing good. You?
Doing pretty good for an old fan.
Talking about some of the stories that's in your books, you had a couple ones that I kind of liked to get more information on, and let's see, I believe it was the in Alabama, Huggin' Molly.
Oh, okay. Okay. What do you want to know about it? I don't remember much about her.
Oh, you don't?
She was a young lady who passed away.
Right. And I guess I forget what it was that was wrong with her, but she would come up behind somebody and hug them and then scream in her ear.
She's actually a pretty friendly ghost compared to some of them we wrote about in the book. I'm trying to remember what her age was. She's pretty young. She's pretty young. Hold on just a second. Let me see what I can look at. I'll pull the book up and look at it. All right. I was getting 4 years ago. I had a hard time remembering.
Don't worry, a lot of people suffer from CRS. We can't help it.
I know, it's terrible as you get older. It just kind of runs all over you. Let's see here. Number 9. Still my favorite story, though, is still the one about Robert the doll.
Oh.
I love
Robert. Yes.
And we all like Robert.
Can't help but like Robert.
You see, Robert has fans. He's not a bad doll at all.
No, just strange.
Okay. She hugged actually a full one. She's about 7 foot tall, heavy set woman, and she's dressed in black with a large brim hat. And she.
Did we lose you?
Apparently, she lost her child, and she was grieving, and that's what makes her want to hug kids and children.
Wow.
She never hurts them. She never harms the children now. It's always very gentle, and it's, just a real nice thing when it comes to children. I don't think she's quite as nice to older people sometimes.
Right. Wow.
Been known to actually scare big people, scare adults.
Wow.
Well, since you brought up Robert the doll,
Hey.
have you had a chance to visit it?
No, I want to go so bad I can't stand it. But I am definitely ask permission before I take a picture with him.
Oh yeah, definitely do that. I have photographers friends who go down there, and they keep trying to skirt that curse, but somebody always asks for permission before they can take a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, that's polite. I mean, you do that, anytime you're on an investigation, you go into a location, and if you want to take photographs, me personally, especially if I'm on a location like a Civil War battlefield or something, I always ask, would it be all right for me to take your image? Not a photograph. Could I take your image, please? It's just polite. You just ask them, because some cultures don't like to have their photographs taken. Some
true.
spirits don't like to have their photographs taken. So you ask for permission. It's just polite.
That's true. That's true. I'll definitely agree with that. The thing about the Civil War, a lot of the ghosts, I don't think they're actually ghost. I think it's more of a glitch in time. A battle has happened, a situation has happened, that image is stuck all the time. It repeats over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just a matter of being polite and everything. You've got to put, your investigations in perspective. When you talk to the spirits within a particular time frame, it's best to talk to them in the language and the vernacular and the slang and everything that they're familiar with. If you don't, they might not completely understand what you're talking about.
Your mic seems to be breaking up again.
Oh, sorry.
Changing
now. How's that?
That's better.
Okay.
All right. I know you had some stories that I kind of seemed interesting in Louisiana, and there's always creepy stuff in Louisiana.
That's where I found. Yeah, I agree.
There's one about the Candy Lady.
What, is she related to Sammy Davis Jr.? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the Candy Man.
Well, that's pretty close.
You're going with Tony Todd too. That's the other
I was
thing.
going to say, yeah, Candyman is a whole nother little, whole nother demon there.
Close though. I mean, I still gotta give you credit. Louisiana is full of fantastic stories.
Yeah.
I guess because there's just so much happening down there all the time.
Yep.
With the voodoo mixture put in there and just the lifestyle in general down there, I think creates a lot of interesting characters. That's why I'm fat, because I married a Louisiana girl. So, marry one from New Orleans, you're going to get fat. That's just all there is to it.
Well, they have a lot of witchcraft and stuff like that down there.
Yeah, it's all the voodoo. The voodoo come in from West Africa and up through the Caribbean and all that. And it's just that weird, the whole thing. It's a whole different kind of magic compared to like regular witchcraft and stuff. I mean, when people talk about vampires or ghosts or demons in Louisiana, you could actually believe it. No question.
I think my favorite is the Luguru, which is, what anybody else would, translate to werewolf.
Yeah.
And that to me is probably one of the creepiest that comes out of Louisiana, not just the voodoo, but the Luguru. Because it's not quite the same thing as your typical werewolf.
No, I said it dates all the way back to medieval France. And, I mean, the glowing eyes and everything kind of reminds you of that, but it's just a different kind of a character. It really is.
Well, it must have something to do with, the culture. Down south, you've got the Spanish, you've got the French, and so forth, and they brought in a great number of their own superstitions, their own stories, and everything. But once they establish themselves, when you compare that to what the Scots and the Irish and the English brought in the North, there are so many comparisons between the two. You have to wonder, there's got to be a common factor in there.
Yeah, that and the fact that it's because all of them were there together, and almost like they weave themselves in back and forth between the different cultures. So it makes a little bit of changes every time they weave it around. I mean, you got an English father and a French mother. Then both of those stories combine when they tell them to their kids. And of course, the kids take those stories and they pass them on there. And they've got that mixture of the cultures going when they pass it down. So it gets changed a little bit more, and it gets changed a little bit more every time it's passed down. Because you do have that mix, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a basis in fact somewhere.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
down through the years, we've understood an awful lot of things based on actual physiology and medical and so forth. It's like all of the people that have, I forget what the term is, but those that have an excess of hair. And, they used to be in circuses and sideshows and things like that, like the wolf boy or whatever, or the wolf girl or the bearded lady. And all of these people have this affliction. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. This medical condition that causes you to have all of this hair. But, people fear that. And it's like anybody that, has, a need to eat a lot of raw meat. They're going to be considered vampires. That sort of thing. So there is always a basis in fact.
Oh, I agree 100%.
In Mississippi, let me see, is it Mississippi? Yes, Mississippi. Probably one of my favorites is the Robert Johnson story.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that one?
He was a fair guitar player, and he wanted to do better, and he was willing to sell his soul to the devil. So the devil met him on the crossroads, made a deal with Robert Johnson to sell his soul to be famous and rich, because he was a poor sharecropper's son. He signed the papers, and overnight he became a incredible guitar player, singer, songwriter, rose to the top of in the blues and rhythm and blues, and then got poisoned by a jealous husband.
Wow.
Now, there is, an awful lot of stories, not only in Mississippi, but also all over the area about going to the crossroads and meeting up with the devil and selling your soul. Do you have any idea where that came from, that you have to meet in a crossroads?
Well, from what I understand, the thing is the devil always gives a choice. You can either take this road and not sign your soul up, and this is what's going to happen to you, or you can take this road once you sign your soul over, and this is what's going to happen. So with the choice, you have to physically say, okay, this is what I want. And you have to, and you're turned, and the devil makes you face the road that you want to take.
Okay,
but evidently he's not a good fiddle player, so you can take your chances with that.
Yeah, like Charlie Daniels, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing years ago a film called Crossroads, and it had Ralph Macchio in it. And I think Steve Vai was actually in that film, playing the one that was, in, down under with the devil and everything, that Macchio ended up challenging him to a guitar duel and so
Right.
forth. And it's really interesting that, that most people seem to think that when it comes down to the devil, to sell your soul for something worthy, something that you really want and everything, that there's always a trade-off, that you might get what you want, but in the end, there's a trade-off. And that must have happened with Robert Johnson. He had all this fame for a very short period of time, but then, bam.
Yep.
And, why was he, and it seems kind of odd that with all the things that he went through, he got poisoned by a jealous husband.
Yep. He had a taste for the ladies.
Oh.
It didn't matter if I was married or not.
Yeah.
That'll-
Well, I mean, it was either the devil or his bad choices.
Right.
And that could be the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
This could
You know,
be the
The
wrong
devil
part.
made me do it, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Certainly gave him the blues. Oh, wait,
Ooh.
With
I mean, anybody that listens to Robert Johnson's music, and, my husband and I are both, blues fans. And listening to Robert Johnson from back then, he was not the biggest talent at that time, but when you listen to his music and when you listen to the way he sings and the way he plays, it's from the heart. And I think that's probably what the saddest thing was, is that he did that. He wanted that to be known. And if he did indeed sell his soul to the devil to have that kind of talent, yeah, it was a sad thing, because he traded off. Because
Yeah.
had he lived, he probably would have changed the blues. But in the end, the devil, I'm sorry, but Robert Johnson got the last laugh on him, because so many blues players based their music and their talent on what he did.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry about that, Lucifer.
Well, I think the end goal, if Lucifer had an end goal, was just the acquisition of a soul. So I'm sure he didn't mind whatever side issues or quests came up.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I mean, there's plenty
Because
more.
because the more successful other people, the more tempted they are to get more.
Yeah,
So they could be better, also clients.
right.
Wow.
Yeah. He opened it up for more people to come to him.
Yep. That's it.
He
How
had a-
good he did.
Networking. Networking.
You get the same.
Not working.
We're going to start getting Instagram ads with the devil doing that, I can show you in 15 seconds how you
Make
can.
dreams come true.
Well, I found it funny because, I have friends in Florida, and it was like a Robert the Doll thing. So I friend Robert on Facebook and on Twitter, and all of a sudden Robert friends me back. What? And then he starts suggesting, you should like this person too. And I'm going, I'm not going to say no to Robert the Doll.
No.
Yeah, you kind of get the network in there. I can see how it could happen. Lucifer gets a Facebook page, and you really should like this person. You network.
I'm sorry, but if Lucifer looks like, the guy on the television
no.
show, oh yeah,
Oh, heck yeah.
forget it.
And you
Wow.
do know he was the most beautiful of the angels and the most talented of the angels.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. You're right.
The van-
Yeah.
That's what they said. Yeah.
So-
So, in North Carolina, they had one here, or you had one here called Chicken Alley. What was that
Oh,
about?
yeah. Love Chicken Alley. one of my most enjoyable stories. There was a man here. It was in the 1800s, back when Asheville was pretty much a logging community. People logged here, and the loggers would come off the mountains and come to Asheville to drink and party and spend their money. Well, there was a doctor here in Asheville that he didn't hang out with other doctors. He liked hanging out with the loggers and listening to stories and drinking with them and cutting up and having a really good time. Well, there was an area where some of the bars were, and the chickens would congregate in the alley. The wild chickens around Asheville would congregate in that alley. So you had to walk through the chickens to get to the different bars that were in that alley. Well, one night he got off work, he went home, got ready to go out, he got his top hat on, he had his cane, he was in a really good mood, and he started down the alley. Well, as he come down the alley through the chickens, there was a fight broke out in one of the bars. And when they fought hard and bloody and violently and really bad. Well, the fight spilled out into the alley. Unfortunately for the doctor, he was in the alley when the fight boiled out into it, and he was killed. Well, because of that, now his spirit still walks up that alley and down that alley looking for the bar.
Wow.
And I've seen pictures and stuff that people have snapped, and it actually looks like a shadow with a top hat and a cane.
Wow.
Oh, man. I mean, when you can see that kind of detail, there's got to be, something to it.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt. I don't doubt that happened one bit.
I guess that's what happened.
Jeff, you're breaking up too.
Yeah, of course. It was a good joke, too.
No.
Not again.
I was saying that's what happens when plans go afoul.
Oh, boo.
You ain't right.
Oh.
Well, what's this other one here from North Carolina? The Clyde Irvin ghost.
Oh, the Clyde Irwin High School? The ghost in my high school.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Where my Clyde Irwin High School sits now used to be a graveyard. It was holy ground. Well, the city and county hired somebody to come in and move the graves, and the graves were people that were poor and indigent and just not have any money, is for poor people, and they come in and supposedly move the graves. Well, they built a high school, and they found a few remnants of some graves, and they moved those. But when they went to build the area where the band and everything is, and the amphitheater, they run the bulldozer in there, and they took a big scoop of dirt up, and when they lifted it up, there was bodies hanging from the bulldozer.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So they put them back, and they moved out, and they hired another company to come in and move those graves. And now, when you're in high school, especially in the band area, there's shadows, there's disconnected voices, there's doors opening and closing, and just an in general feeling of something's not right. And every now and then you'll feel a cold breeze come through you.
Wow.
That's mine. Did they ever? I mean, obviously they must have relocated the rest of the graves afterwards.
They did, yes. Finally.
Oh, wow. If they got them all.
If they got them. Yeah, I still think there's still some up there personally.
Yeah, that happened.
As long as you don't go swimming with Joe Ben Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened out here in San Francisco too. They relocated most of the graveyards out of San Francisco, but somehow they managed to leave them under the Legion of Honor and the golf course up there.
Well,
So,
you know, golf too.
yeah.
Yeah, we had the same thing happen here in my area. Two places that I actually investigated. They were supposed to have moved the graves because they wanted to build something there, but they just, like in Poltergeist, they moved the headstones, but not the graves.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
And the next thing you know, the buildings that are on the property are haunted.
Wow.
The dead don't like being disturbed.
No.
Nope.
And it's
Not
a
at all.
shame because those people who's bought the houses or the property for business or something, they got to deal with it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And there in that situation, there's not a lot of way to deal with it other than actually moving the bodies and having them re-sanctified.
Yep. And at that time, you probably don't even know whose body it was if the gravestones had already been moved.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's hard to make it right, that's for sure.
Ick.
Well, George, when it comes down to actual investigations, where has been the most haunted place that you've been to so far?
Well, let's see. Just some old cemeteries. Some of the older cemeteries where they're buried, but there's not even really a headstone there.
That's sad.
100 years old that were could have been either Indians killed or just people dying of tuberculosis. Nobody knew who they were, so they buried them and they just put a plain stone on the top of their grave. I mean, we've got really old graveyards in places. And when you're there, I mean, you feel it. You feel it more than you actually see it. I've seen the full body apparitions, but I felt it more than I've seen them. And it's like they're asking to be acknowledged so that they can go on to the other side. But there's no way to acknowledge them if they don't tell you who they are.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like a sadness.
It is, and unless you have, fortunately, because I did pass away for a very short period of time, I do have a little bit more of a connection where I can say, okay, this was Susie. Okay, Susie, you can go on now. You can rest. About your what?
Wow.
That's probably some of the saddest things. I've been to so many different cemeteries. I live in between both Gettysburg and Antietam battlefields, and I've been to both cemeteries. And it just seems that whenever I've walked among those graves where the unknowns are, it's probably the saddest because they were never identified. They are really kind of lost, and it affects me more than anything else.
And I'm sure that's probably because all they could put in the grave was pieces, and they had no idea from which body they were from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even, sometimes what side
Right.
they were from.
Right.
Yeah, that was two of the most bloody battles in the Civil War.
Yeah.
I mean, those were just nasty, nasty battles, especially Antietam.
Yeah.
Sure was. And I've been to both of them, so.
Man, I can't imagine.
Now,
Really?
down there in your area, in North Carolina, as far as the Civil War was concerned, have you ever encountered any Civil War spirits in your area?
Not enough to matter. They didn't have a lot of battles here in the mountain where I'm at. There was not a lot actually happened here. Most of it happened down towards like cow pens and areas like that that are flatter.
Like cow pens.
Yeah, they had a lot of guerrilla fighting here because the mountains and the terrain didn't allow for a big area to battle in. Everything had to be close quarters all the time.
Right.
So they didn't really do a lot of major battles like Antietam or Gettysburg or cow pens or anything like that here because it was impossible because it was just too rough at that time. But I had a Civil War. I was in a graveyard and I had a Civil War Confederate soldier tap me on the shoulder.
Really? Wow.
I looked, I could see. Right, of course, I could see through him. It wasn't a full apparition, but it was almost like he was asking permission to go.
Really?
Oh,
Wow. You just got that sadness and that feeling from him. So I said to, what I felt was there. I said, "Yeah, you go home where you need to be. You have permission," and it just went away.
Wow. I know there's in the cemetery in Wilmington. There's one place where they got one big monument, and in that particular grave, there's over 550 Civil War soldiers buried in from Fort Fisher.
Oh man!
Yep,
oh my God!
sure is. They got a big monument on top of it.
That's amazing. It really is. I bet that place just grabs you when you come through.
Oh yeah, it's a real old cemetery. You walk through, and I mean, just the markers and stuff. It's really eerie to see a lot of that stuff.
Mm.
And I mean, even those people that don't have any kind of sense of the spirits, when you walk amongst the graves of those that have died, traumatically, you can't help but feel it. It's a matter of empathy.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure that you, George, you've gone to many different places, not only just cemeteries, but areas where you have encountered just the spirit or the energy of those that have passed, especially traumatically. That's got to affect you.
It does. I can drive down the road and feel where there's been accidents and people have died. I can
Oh dear.
Wow.
go in different areas and feel the pain sometimes. And it's just really, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming.
So have you had this all your life, or was it just something that developed over time?
It happened after I was in my 20s and I got pneumonia extremely bad. And they finally took me to the hospital. I wouldn't go to the hospital. I stayed home and fought against it. And I had 105 fever, and they finally, when I passed out and was unable to move, they took me to the hospital because I couldn't fight no more.
Wow.
So I got to the hospital. They admitted me. They were pumping me up with all these fluids and antibiotics, and they were doing all this stuff. And I think it was either the first or second night that one night about, I don't know, I think like 2:00, I felt comfortable. I was feeling pretty good, and I woke up, and there was a woman standing beside my bed, an older woman. And she said, "It's okay. It's okay." So I sat up in the bed, and these people started coming through the walls of my room. And over in the corner, there was a figure there, and I couldn't make it out. So I looked back, and when I stood up off the bed, my body was still on the bed.
Wow.
So I started looking, and for lack of a better description, I'm going to say an angel. It was a person in the corner, and you could see the outline of the wings and their eyes. That's all I could really see other than an outline. And these people were coming through the walls of my room, and they were talking to me. And this older lady was talking to me. We were just conversation back and forth between all of us. and the one in the corner raised his hand, and there was a little white dot formed, and it just spread out to like a portal. And the people started walking in that portal. And I went to walk, and the woman grabbed me. She said, "No, it's not. You don't need to go there right now." She said, "You just need to lay back down. It's not your time."
Wow.
So I just sat back on the bed. I went to lay down, and I looked, and she waved at me and smiled, and she went into the portal, and he raised his hand again, and it went away, and he disappeared. And I laid back down, and next thing I know, there's alarms going off. My door burst open. But the weirdest thing about the whole thing was when I was talking to the lady and walking around my room, the clock in my room never changed. The second hand didn't move. Nothing changed on it at all. But when I woke up, it was moving. There's people running my room, and there was a woman jumped up like she was going to give me CPR, and I asked her, "What are you doing?" And she freaked out. She didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they all kind of left the room, and one of the nurses was standing there, and I said, remember her name, and that woman went just pale. The nurse did. Come to find out, that old lady I had been talking to, the nice old lady, she had died in the room that I was in a week before I got there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I told every person's name that was in my room. Never one of those people had died. And
my goodness. So that's when the whole thing began. It's pretty well known that most people, when they end up experiencing spirits, comes from a near-death experience. And that's obviously what happened to you. And you can't dismiss that.
No.
There's so much of those things that happen to people. And it happened to me. I mean, I've seen spirits since I was a kid, but it took a near-death experience for me to really hone in on the spirit world. How in the world do you explain that? You can't. And those people around you that love you and understand you, they believe you. And those people that don't, I'm sorry, it does happen.
Well, if they believe in science, they can help to believe it. Because one of the theories from Einstein was a parallel universes. And that falls with that parallel universe theory. It falls within that realm. And I can't remember what scientist it was who expanded upon that and said, for every decision, a new parallel world is created. That's why there's an infinite number of the parallel universes.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you pass away, you actually break down one of those walls, and it gives you access, depending upon what you went through, gives you so much access into that world as well.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have, I'm not a medium. I don't have any of that ability. I just simply know that when there's something there that's not right, I can
You're
see.
a sensitive. You're an empath.
Everybody says I'm insane, but I guess the empath. But I mean,
you're in good company, George. That's for darn sure.
That's cool. I like y'all, so it's okay.
Now, before it gets too late, of course, we got to talk about Elvis Presley's ghost.
Ooh. The king.
He has the busiest ghost I've ever read about in my life. So, man,
what? You mean not George Washington?
He's a busy ghost as well as still walking around alive.
Yes, he's so busy. He's either in California or Vegas or California. He's just everywhere. He's awful.
Well, maybe we can get him to visit us on the show.
I mean, you got to give him credit. You know, he was an incredible performer and singer and all that. And even after he's gone, he still is making appearances. I mean, they're seen constantly over at Graceland. They've got photos of his ghost over in Las Vegas, where he performed quite a bit. They've got pictures of him walking down the Sunset Strip in California.
There you go, Jeff.
That's like a few blocks from me, but it depends on where on Sunset Strip. That's a little farther down.
I mean, how can you not like a ghost with good hair? I mean, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if we can just get him to perform, we'll be good to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Take your tape recorder.
Yeah. I mean, he's the best ghost there is out there. He can be everywhere.
Yeah, like I said, he's like George Washington. He's slept here, he slept there.
I don't think he's doing too much sleeping anymore.
He can't. He's got to have a heck of a schedule. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Wow.
Now, George, have you ever been to the Washington, D.C. area?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay. And have there been anything there that you've, encountered, or anything that caught your eye?
Well, I was young there. When I went to Washington, D.C., I was in high school, so that's been a long time ago before I had the near-death experience. So back then I was young and, little insane. So I don't really remember much back then.
Well, I guarantee you there's an awful lot there. I grew up, I was born, raised, and lived and married like 5 minutes away from the D.C. line. And I can tell you that Washington, D.C. has got its fair share of spooks, goblins, and an awful lot of stuff. So, definitely research that. It's pretty cool.
They do have an awesome ghost there in Congress.
Well, alive or dead?
Well, the dead one's one I like. So this ghost wanders the stairs of Congress. He was killed on the stairs of Congress.
Wow.
So he wanders around in the dark areas of the building there.
Yeah.
He's actually in my second book.
Oh.
Cool.
Now, have you done much research, and are you planning on one for anything overseas as far as hauntings go?
I love the ones overseas. They're so much more fun. They really are. I actually put 7 of the overseas stories in my last book. It has the if I can remember all I put in there. I know I put the true story of George and the Dragon in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did the rock apes in Vietnam, which were known to attack our people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story come out of France that is basically the basis for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Of course, I did the Banshee in Ireland. You got to do the Banshee. I mean, it's just too cool. I did a Chinese vampire, did a golem in Israel, and I did a little people in Africa.
Wow.
Not the big ones.
Yeah. I think the golem was probably the most fascinating.
Oh, I love the golem
It is
story.
absolutely fascinating what that thing is. When you look at, not only, it's not a reanimation, but it's an animation of an inanimate object.
Yep, a clay
that does your bidding.
And it's actually comes from
It's
good.
Yeah, creation. Oh. Did we lose George or me?
Both of yous.
Oh.
Kind
Wait,
of.
what?
You both had mic issues.
Sorry.
That happened.
It's not on my end. My cats are not near me.
Okay,
Actually,
try
I
again.
had 5 cats in the room with me, but they're not on the desk.
Mine's in the bedroom with my wife.
So go ahead and try again now. What you was trying to say.
Yeah, about the golem.
It comes from the Jewish mysticism.
It's a Kabbalistic creation.
Well,
Yes.
the Jewish mysticism book it's a spin-off religion from the Hebrew, and it talks about like the first woman to be created wasn't Eve, it was actually Lilith,
Right.
and she was created
Lilith,
equal to that, and she became very arrogant and everything else, and she went to the highest peak in Eden and called God out by name, and he cast her out to being a night demon.
Wow.
Yeah, Old Testament God was kind of testy.
He didn't take a lot of crap off nobody, He just
I actually have a script you'd probably find interesting in which a woman is challenging a religious man's beliefs, and she points out, which God are you referring to? The genocidal Old Testament God or everything's wonderful rainbows New Testament God?
Oh, goodness gracious. For me, probably the golem is one of the most frightening because it doesn't have a conscience or anything like that. You can't reason with it. And that's, for something to come after you that you can't say stop, don't do this. To me, that's the most eerie.
Actually reminds me of everybody I went to school with.
Ah,
Kind of single-minded,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you just can't you can't tell them to stop,
Right.
doing what you're doing. But anything in mythology, when it comes to asking something to do something for you, I think that is probably the most frightening, whether it's a witch conjuring something or something from voodoo conjuring something. That is the most frightening because it comes from the will, of the person that is doing it. And if you believe that it's going to hurt you, it's going to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Your subconscious can make you hurt yourself whether you mean to or not,
Right.
Yeah,
and do exactly what they're wanting you to do. And I
exactly.
think that's what the big driving thing for voodoo is. Zombies actually come from voodoo ritual.
Yep.
The original meaning of zombie was, and what they based that off of is some of the drugs that they were using, and it was zombify the person, and they thought they were dead and then come back to life. But it wasn't that. They were actually just under some heavy drugs, and because their body wasn't getting the oxygen and it wasn't going to their brain, they had a one-purpose mind that was to move forward, to a kill or whatever. And it didn't have anything to do with being dead and being brought back. It had something to do with mind-altering drugs like bath salts do nowadays.
Right.
Wow.
It's ironic because one of the original legends of the Haitian zombies is if you were to feed them salt, they would remember they were dead and return to their graves.
Yep.
Well, actually, the salt it does something to the neurotoxin that they put in there. It stops it from reacting. So, actually, Clovis Narcisse had salt, somehow got a hold of it, and that's what caused him to start remembering where he came from. So there is basis in fact with that.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Wow.
Very.
Well, our time is running down real fast. We got time probably for one more question, Barbara or Kat.
Well, George, I have one final question. Now, when it comes to your next book, is there anything in particular or any place in particular are you going to focus on?
Well, my next book, I'm actually going to get away from the folklore. I'm going to write something from my poor brain, and I'm doing a paranormal horror.
Paranormal horror?
Yeah,
Ooh.
this is set and it's got I don't it's got some spiritual stuff in it. It's got this really blood and gore, bad ways to kill people type thing. One guy gets run through a wood chipper as an example.
Ouch!
Wow.
Shades of Fargo.
I bet that was sharp.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
And they probably
Okay.
said, well, that won't hurt mulch.
Well, at least the jokes can be recycled.
That's true.
Wow.
It's pretty-
All
This would
right.
be a narrative fiction novel you're talking about?
it's going to be pretty wild. Yeah, it's going to come out of my head. So, Lord only knows how bad it's going to
What
be.
comes out. Yeah. like on a little salt shaker, tip me over and pour me out.
I grew up reading science fiction and science fantasy all my life, so I've got like a warped brain.
Wow.
Well, you're good company.
I appreciate it.
All right. Any last things, Jeff, Barbara, Kat?
Yep, we're good to
Really
go.
need
You know?
Really need to learn how to expand time so we can have more time with our better guests. Thanks. Good night.
You guys are definitely a blast to talk to. That's for sure.
Appreciate it.
Well, we try to make it fun and having a good time. So, all right, listen, we're down to under 2 minutes. I want you to give out all your information where people can follow you, contact you, get your books and all the good stuff. And then we want you to stay on for a few minutes after we're off.
All right. Well, the best way to find out anything you want to know about me and my book, you go to my website, which is author George Lunsford.com. Everything button. And
Oh, now I know what it is.
sure you go to the website because I am going to do a book giveaway.
Oh.
Cool.
All right.
Well, the link to his website will be on the report page because we kind of lost the
Audio.
.x and host aspect of the web URL. But I have links to your website, your Instagram, Facebook, your author page on Facebook, Taylor's production, which we should really have talked about, and your IMDb entry, fellow actor,
Oh, cool. I appreciate that.
and links to all your books will be on the page.
All right. With that, our time is just about up. And I want to thank everybody for being here and listening tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And we will see you in 2 weeks, next week, I guess. So we'll have something. Anyway, with that, this is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gould.
Barbara Duncan.
Cat Gash.
And we'll see you next week at the same time. So good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.